I actually remember my first like really starstruck moment was with Idina Menzel, because she's one of the first stars I've ever really worked with. I've seen Rent probably 3 million times. I used to be like a huge musical theater nerd. And she was so sweet and just made me feel like so comfortable. And she's the coolest chick ever. And it was kind of nice to just like be like, oh, okay, everyone's just human.
Every single day I walk down the street, I hear people say, baby, so sweet. Ever since puberty, everybody stares at me. Boys, girls, I can't help it, baby. So be kind and don't lose your mind. Just remember that I'm your baby. Take me for what I am, who I was meant to be.
Welcome to This Broken Mixtape, the podcast that rewinds and presses play on the soundtrack to your life. I'm Jeff Wu.
And I'm Justin Lee.
Singer-songwriter Sasha Sloan was only a few months into her studies at Boston's Berklee College of Music before she signed a publishing deal. After a few years of living in Los Angeles, writing for some of the biggest pop artists in music, she decided to focus her energy on her own singing career. We spoke to Sasha about writing for artists like John Legend and Charli XCX, the folk-Americana music her mom raised her on, and getting a case of butterflies when she performed on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert.
This week, our special guest is Sasha Sloan. Thank you for being on the show, Sasha.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So I know that you kind of come from a jazz background, and when you first got signed this songwriting deal, you sort of had to make this transition into writing songs for pop, mostly pop artists. How did you find that transition? Was it difficult to sort of, I mean, not to say dumb it down, but jazz music is very complex, and you're kind of simplifying it.
Yeah, I think for me it was a really hard transition, and I didn't grow up listening to pop music. So when I got thrown into that world, I was way in over my head. And I think at first I was really resistant to writing pop music, and then I realized that it's way harder to be simple than it is to be complicated. And once I realized that, I really just love to challenge myself and be like, how can I make this idea as simple as possible so anyone could understand it, but also make someone feel something and be clever at the same time. Pop is really hard to write, and I'm still learning every day. So it was a tough transition, and it still is sometimes, but it's getting easier. Just got to do it a lot.
What do you think makes a great pop song?
For me, I mean, I love NSYNC and Britney Spears, and I mean, I fell in love with like Selena Gomez's album. What makes a great pop song is just, for me, the entire music business is about creating emotion. And, whether the emotion is happiness or, oh my God, this makes me want to die, or, oh yeah, I've been there before, or I want to dance to this. I think that's the whole point.
And so, like, do you have a different approach when you're writing for yourself versus other artists?
Yeah, definitely. When I write for other artists, I'm usually with them, and I'm acting more of as a therapist, and we talk for a couple hours before we even start writing, and I'm like, what have you been through, and what are you going through now? And I try and take little tidbits of what they've said and remember them and write them down and be like, well, I don't think you even realized you said this, but you went through this, and this could be a great title for the song. And then I'll kind of go from there. But when it's for me, it's just, usually me smoking weed at like 1 a.m. and feeling really sad about something. And all my own music is super personal. And for other artists, it's super personal for them. So it's kind of just like wearing a different hat.
Before you, or at the time that you signed the songwriting deal, did you have aspirations of being a singer, or did you only solely want to write music at the time for other artists?
I actually had no clue what I was doing. I was at Berklee College of Music in Boston. I was a freshman. And the way I got signed as a writer was through Reddit. I'm a huge Reddit nerd. And I posted this photo of my parents, of my house. My parents were painting it. They were painting the outside of it. And they saved my window for last, where my room was. And they painted dork in massive letters with an arrow pointing to my bedroom on the front of the house. Mm-hmm. And I posted it to Reddit. The post went like #1 on the front page. I definitely peaked in that moment. Like, even if I ever win a Grammy, like this Reddit post was a huge deal for me.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And then I posted my SoundCloud in the comments, and like a couple of days later, I got a call from Warner Chappell, and they were like, "We want to sign you as a writer." And I was like, I didn't even know that writing for other people was a job, mm-hmm. because all the artists that I grew up listening to just wrote their own stuff.
Right.
So for me, I was like, what's a publishing deal? I have to move to Los Angeles. I've, lived in Boston my whole life. Everyone I know is there. So, I really didn't know what I was doing when I went to Berklee. I thought I was just going to become like a music teacher or something, which is totally fine. And so I kind of just got thrown into it.
So what was the timeline between, when you first got that email, when they contacted you, and then you moving out to LA? How soon was that?
About 6 months, probably, because at that point I just started my second semester at Berklee of my freshman year. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I've already paid for it, so I might as well just stay and finish it out. And I moved to LA, I think 2014, the summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, your SoundCloud at the time only had a couple of songs, right?
Yeah, they were terrible. I'm surprised I got a deal as a writer, because the songs were just like jazz originals it was just me and piano, like super basic, but I guess someone heard something. I got super lucky.
Yeah, that's the first time I've ever heard of somebody getting a deal from, based on a post from Reddit. Usually it's like kind of a YouTube discovery thing.
Yeah, without my parents roasting me, who knows where I'd be right now.
Yeah, so many things had to, you had to say it was fate, because they had to have done that, first of all, and then you had to have the foresight to be like, okay, I'm just going to post this. And you're obviously comfortable with being called a dork. You call yourself a dork a lot.
I do.
Yeah. What makes you a dork? You don't appear to be dorky at all, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Thanks. I don't know. I think, I was never like the cool kid in school. And for a long time, I was really just uncomfortable in my own skin, and I had braces forever, and I was just super awkward. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of a floater, in high school. I didn't really fit in with any group per se. And I don't know, I think I just have always been kind of shy and insecure, and that's kind of where all my writing comes from.
Mm-hmm. And it obviously resonates with your audience, because, your 2 EPs, one's called Loser and the other one's called Sad Girl. I think a lot of people identify that, because you talk about your issues with anxiety and depression. Mm-hmm. And, that's more common than you would think. And I feel like, you're making that connection with people. Why is it important for you to kind of speak out on about those issues?
I think it's important because it's who I am. And I think if I ignored that part of me, I would be lying. Mm-hmm. And, I don't really have I'm not trying to tell people it gets better. And, if you do this, you'll feel better. It's just I'm trying to figure it out too. And I think by just putting myself out there, it's actually helped my anxiety and everything that comes with it. I think my new motto, I used to be so scared of everything. I used to be scared of what people thought of me and of what people would think of my music, and so scared of what I looked like and all of that. But I think my new motto is, if I'm not doing something that doesn't scare me, I'm not doing life right. Mm-hmm. And by keeping that motto, my anxiety has gotten better. Mm-hmm,
mm-hmm. What's the most recent thing that kind of scared the shit out of you that you accomplished, that you overcome?
Oh, God. Well, I just did the Colbert show.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I saw the performance. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And I remember just the entire day, you're just in the building, mm-hmm. and it just builds up so much suspense, because you get there in the morning and you just sit in the green room and you watch the rehearsal, and then you rehearse. And then like, it's just like an entire day of anxiety goes by. And then they're like, okay, it's go time. And I remember getting on stage and just like wanting to throw up, and then getting off stage and also wanting to throw up. But I mean, that was amazing to have been able to do that. And I'm really glad that I said yes, even though it was really scary for me. And it's definitely paid off, because I'm just, you know, whether or not that gained me fans, it just made me proud of myself to just do it, you know, and not think twice about it.
Yeah. Did you get a chance to actually talk to Colbert a little bit?
Yeah. For a second.
What's he like?
Oh my God. First of all, I was so nervous because I'm so obsessed with him.
Sure. Who isn't? I mean, I'm a huge fan.
I mean, I don't know if I should say this, but we got to watch the dress rehearsal, and he's so funny.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I've been obsessed with Colbert for a long time. And I think what made me really want to puke right before was him introducing me. Because when we rehearsed, he didn't do that. There was like some other guy, like, this is Sasha Sloan. And hearing him say that, like, I felt my entire stomach drop. I was like, did Colbert just really say Sasha Sloan? And he's holding my EP? This is crazy. Yeah.
Do you have any talk shows planned right now, or?
No.
Okay.
I think I'm just working on new music at the moment and touring.
How is touring going? So this is like kind of the first time you're doing live shows at this capacity. How's it been so far?
It's been really great. I mean, you can see numbers on a computer, and that's great and all, but to see real people connecting to my lyrics has been amazing. And honestly, I think a lot of artists are supposed to say they love touring, and I think I'm supposed to say I love touring, but it's pretty rough. And for the most part, it's like you have 23 hours in a day of doing nothing and then an hour of performing, which is amazing and really gratifying. But for me, like, the traveling is kind of rough, and just, it's so much downtime. I go crazy with downtime. So for me, tour is mostly just about figuring out ways to fill my day.
What do you normally do on like a typical day that if you don't have to do press, you know, and you have like, let's say a 6-hour block of free time, what would you do?
Usually just like try and explore the city. I'm going to DC tomorrow, and there are like bikes you can rent there. I've done it before, and you can just like bike around the city. So I'm going to do that. Eat, sleep. A lot of sleep happens. Drinking, smoking, weed. I mean, it's pretty much like adult summer camp, which is kind of sick. But after a couple weeks, you're like, oh, alrighty then.
Did you get to do anything today in Toronto? Did you arrive early enough that you were able to?
We got here around like 3, and then I went straight to sound check.
Okay, yeah.
So, but
you've been here before, right?
I have, yeah. And the only thing I really want to do here is go to Tim Hortons. So my tour manager is giving me a bagel right now.
Yeah, there's one really close by.
Yeah.
I've seen.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
So you've written for so many artists, like everyone from Charli XCX to John Legend to Dua Lipa. Can you share with us, like, I know it's hard to single out one of these artists, but what was like one of the more memorable experiences you've had?
It's a great question. I think it's really funny because in the beginning, when I was starting to meet famous people, I was so scared and I was so nervous, and I had proved nothing. So like the fact that I was in a room with them was a big deal because it meant they were taking a chance on me. And I actually remember my first like really starstruck moment was with Idina Menzel, because she's one of the first stars I've ever really worked with. I've seen Rent probably 3 million times. I used to be like a huge musical theater nerd. And she was so sweet and just made me feel like so comfortable. And she's the coolest chick ever. And it was kind of nice to just like be like, oh, okay, everyone's just human. And after that experience, I got like a couple songs on her album, which was really cool. And I kind of just had this mentality like, you know, everyone is kind of the same. Like, no matter how famous someone is, they're going through shit.
Right.
And knowing that just makes, has made every writing experience with, you know, someone who might intimidate me much easier.
And is there anybody that you haven't worked with that you would love to work with? I mean, I'm sure there's a long list.
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, this is me really dreaming big right now.
Uh-huh.
Chris Martin.
Okay.
Adele. Amy Winehouse passed away, but oh my God. The problem is like all the artists that I really want to work with don't need me. Mm-hmm. So.
Well, you think they don't need you, but I mean, if somebody like Beyonce still has, works with so many different songwriters, I mean.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah.
I mean, Casey Musgraves would be. Mm-hmm. Oh,
she's great.
I'm obsessed with Casey Musgraves. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've been a fan for a long time before Golden Hour.
Okay. But
I mean, God, she's incredible.
So let's rewind here and talk a little bit about the kind of music that you were growing up with. Mm-hmm. What kind of music, think back to like as early as, 3 or 4 years old, what kind of music was being played around the house?
The Carpenters, Ray Charles, Brandi Carlile, Eva Cassidy. It's so funny. I was just talking to my friend about how much your parents influence your taste in music.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
My mom was a huge influence on what I've listened to my entire life. I listened to a lot of just folk-Americana music. Mm-hmm. And like just old school shit. Queen, Green Day, The Killers. I went through a huge Killers phase. Kind of everything.
Yeah. But I could see how you were saying that you didn't really listen to a lot of pop music. I mean, those are more sort of, everything, I guess, kind of is considered pop in a way, but, not like, that by no means is like the bubblegum pop like that you would hear on the radio at the time.
Yeah, no, I was kind of like that kid who was like, fuck the Jonas Brothers and like, I hate Miley Cyrus. And then like the second I moved to LA, I was like, this is actually so tight. I just never gave it a chance because I was such an elitist.
Yeah, and pop music has gotten so much better in the last 10 years, right? Because they're working with these amazing producers and writers. And
Yeah, that's another thing I learned. Like, collaboration is key. And I used to try and do everything alone, and it's just impossible. I mean, maybe, there's like the one song that you magically write alone because it's like just sent from God knows where and it comes out. But that's something that I've really learned a lot about.
So Ready Yet I've heard that you said that that's the first song that you wrote for yourself.
Yeah.
That you didn't want to give away. What was it about that song that made it so important that you release it as on your own?
I remember being in the studio that day and I was cutting a vocal for something else. And then this producer, King Henry, also my boyfriend, LOL, played me this track, and it was like a ukulele that he had chopped up, which is in Ready Yet. Mm-hmm. And I was like, dude, I have to write to that. Like, this is crazy. This beat is insane. And we kind of wrote the whole thing in like 20 minutes. It just came out, and that never happens for me. I'm like the slowest writer ever. And I just remember feeling so emotionally connected to it. And, in LA, whatever, I'm writing like a song a day. And for that to make an impact on me like that really did something. And the song is about my dad. And actually the night before I wrote the song, he was like Facebook messaging me because that's how we like communicate and whatever. He was just saying, I really want to start over and like make it right with you again. And I just said, I don't think I'm ready yet. And I was like, man, that's kind of a fire concept. And so, I just took it to the studio the next day. And I think it's just it was the first song where I was like, whoa, this is me and it's about my life. And I'm not trying to write it for anyone else. I'm just thinking about what I'm going through. Mm-hmm. And it just made me not want anyone else to sing it.
Mm-hmm. And what did your dad say when you first played it for him? I
don't know. He's from Siberia. Mm-hmm. So I think there's like a big cultural disconnect. Mm-hmm. I think it made him really sad. And I think it made me really sad. Mm-hmm. And writing songs like that can bring up a lot of things that you suppress. But I think that was another reason why I really wanted to put it out. Because it felt important to have that out there.
Yeah, I think that's, it might have been even more powerful than, actually having a proper discussion with him, because you've already thought about it and you put it to paper and you've recorded it. And for him to hear it, he really understands where you're coming from, hopefully.
Totally. And I think I'm I get really bad when it comes to feelings and talking about them. And I hate letting people down and I hate making people upset. So I think for me, it was like the conversation that I wanted to have, but I couldn't say it. I just had to write it into a song. And that's really the only way I think I can express my feelings without it just, being like, oh, never mind, I'm okay. Like, I just choke up every time I want to say something real. So music is really important for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Recently on social media, you posted a screenshot of your Amazon Prime searches. And I mean, for those of you guys who haven't seen it, it included gummy hamburgers, diet root beer, sour Altoids, and Juul vape skins. Now, like, you don't have to explain yourself because everybody searches for crazy things. But me personally, the thing I was most offended by was diet root beer because I had it once in my life and it tasted like hot dog water. It was the grossest thing I've ever had.
Yo,
like,
I have diet root beer in my green. It's on my rider. I am obsessed with diet root beer.
I don't know. What are your thoughts on Jeff?
I like root beer, but I don't really like diet soda.
Yeah.
I like Coke Zero.
I love Coke Zero.
Diet
I fuck with
Cola.
Coke Zero.
Yeah.
Diet Cola is, I love it more than regular cola, but something about diet root beer just...
Dude, diet root beer is so fire. You were sleeping on it.
What brand do you drink?
I think the A&W, right?
Okay.
There's one close by.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get a fresh one.
I
just for you, I'm going to retry it. Maybe I was just not in the right mentality that day, but...
Fair. Smoke a joint and then get so like high and dehydrated and then drink it. I swear to God, it is life-changing.
Well, like, I think in those conditions, anything would taste amazing, no?
Exactly. And then you go from there.
So that's almost time for us, but I was wondering, the first EP was called Sad Girl. If you can name your top 5 sad girl songs by other artists and, take your time.
Okay. Tears Dry on Their Own by Amy Winehouse. Back to Black, Amy Winehouse. Someone Like You, Adele. Hurt, 9 Inch Nails. Is that 4?
That's 4, yeah.
Wake Me Up When September Ends, Green Day.
Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, they're not all ladies, but God, there's so many great sad songs. This is a crazy question.
Yeah, this question might haunt you like afterwards, after the interview.
I'm absolutely going to regret a lot of that. But
They're all good, and you came up with it pretty fast.
I stand by them, though. Fuck it.
Yeah. I mean, Hurt is an incredible song. Like,
dude,
you have to be a robot not to feel something when you hear that
and
song.
the Johnny Cash version is insane.
So good, yeah.
I know. Just even like the chords, it's so smart. I don't know. That song blows my mind.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, and have a great show tonight.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Season 3, Episode 10 of This Broken Mixtape with singer-songwriter Sasha Sloan. If you haven't already, visit thisbrokenmixtape.com to check out this episode's Spotify playlist. There you'll also find all of our past interviews and custom illustrations for each show. If you enjoyed this episode, please take the time to subscribe, rate, and share our podcast however you're tuning into us today. Also, if you have any comments, feedback, or ideas for guests, feel free to drop us a line through our website, Instagram, or Twitter. You can find all our episodes on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, YouTube, and Spotify. As always, thank you for listening. We really appreciate it. Cheers.